Welcome to this webinar on the topic The Basics of English as a Second Language for the Non-Native Speaker. And I will be the moderator for today's webinar. The rapporteur is Ms. Tangentula, and at the end, a vote of thanks will be given by Mrs. Soyimla Akum. Today we have two resource persons with us. We are indeed very lucky to have both of them with us, who will be enlightening us with their insights on English as a second language. English is a language which is common to us and familiar to every one of us, but there are some things that we often fail to understand. But perhaps keeping in mind that English is a second language for us, maybe we will never be able to master it fully. So today's webinar will enlighten us to many different things which we thought we knew, but we didn't. So let me introduce the two speakers that we have with us today. If you can just kindly show yourself to the audience here as I introduce you. The first speaker is Ms. Soyimla Akum. The first speaker is Ms. Soyimla Akum. She's here with us. I think she's. If you can just show yourself to the audience present here, Ms. Soyimla Akum. Okay, maybe her. Yes. So the first speaker we have is Ms. Soyimla Akum. She did her master's in English from IIT University, Nagaland, and she pursued MPhil in Nagaland University under the Department of English, and she is currently pursuing PhD, that too under the Department of English. And she also did a certificate course in teaching English as a second language. And we also, together, we collaborated and came up with a book entitled Potpourri Poesy, which is a collection of poetries published by Ciderwit in the year 2018. So we are indeed very, very fortunate to have you give a talk to our students today. Thank you for joining us. And the second speaker that we have is Mr. Halim Hussain. If you can kindly show yourself to the students and the participants here. Mr. Halim Hussain. I hope he's here with us. Okay. So Mr. Halim Hussain did his master's in English with a specialization on English language from Guwahati University. And he also worked as an assistant professor in Assam Downtown University. And currently he is pursuing PhD in IITG, that is Indian Institute of Technology, Guwahati. So without further delay, I would like to give the time to our first speaker, Ms. Soyimla Akum. You may please take your time.
Yes. Hello, Inagali. Am I audible?
Ms. Soyimla Akum, you may please take your time.
Yes, Ina. Okay. Thank you, Ms. Inagali, for the elaborate introduction. Good afternoon to everyone present. First of all, congratulations to the Department of English, St. John College, for organizing this webinar. And thank you for having me here. Now, the topic of my presentation is Basic English Phonemes. First, before going to the English phonemes, let's know what is language. Language is the means of communication, interaction made up of small parts and a set of rules. It means the system of verbal or non-verbal signs which are used by living beings so as to convey information, feelings, thoughts, etc. In other words, language is a method of communication which comprises of sounds, words, and grammar. It is it has certain grammatical rules and structure that lets the people pronounce words in such a way that it is understood to others. System of communication, as we see, is different from in humans and animals, as humans do not have set of rules. All languages have melody, rhythm, way of articulation, different wordings, and meanings. Now, let's see what is second language. A person's second language, or as in short we say L2, is a language that is not the native language. When we say native language, it means the language, native language or the first language. It is a language in which we usually think and have greater command over the other. A speaker's dominant language, which is the language a speaker uses most and is most comfortable with, is not necessarily the first speaker's first language. Okay. In our, for example, in our Naga context, our mother tongue or Nagamese, as we can see, is our first language and English as second language. For some, Hindi may be their first language and English might become the second language. Okay. In the year 1950, the Indian Constitution declared Hindi in Devanagari script to be the official language, and hence the use of English for official purposes was to cease 15 years after the Constitution came into effect, that is on 26th January 1965. However, the prospect of change led to alarm in most of the non-Hindi speaking areas of India, especially Dravidian-speaking states whose languages were not at all related to Hindi. So, as a result, Parliament enacted the Official Languages Act 1963, which approved for the continuation of English for official purposes along with Hindi even after 1965. So, the position and importance of English rose to such an extent that the Union government decided to continue to use English in addition to Hindi for its official purposes as a subsidiary official language. So today in Northeast, we have Arunachal, Meghalaya, and Nagaland who use English as their official language. And as for many of us, English serves as our second language. Yeah. Coming to English, many people who are, even I, think that we have a misconception that taking English as our honest subject means we have to be perfect in speaking English, should have perfect grammar, and either possess American or British accent. But under what I want to make it clear is that under English as honest paper, there are two different areas. One is literature and the other language, which would be elaborated in detail by our next presenter. So I would skip that. But we must first understand that we are not the native speakers and that English is our second language. For example, the way Chinese speak English will differ from the French speakers because of the influence of their first language. However, when it comes to Indian English, we consider it inferior or sometimes we laugh at them. But instead, we should be proud that India is the second highest speaking English country after United States of America. What matters is whether we can communicate or transfer our ideas using that language. Now, coming to phoneme. Phoneme, as we know in phonology and linguistics, is a unit of sound that distinguishes one word from another in particular language. It is generally regarded as an abstraction of a set of speech sounds that are perceived to equivalent to each other in a given language. While learning English, the vowels in English can be quite difficult. So in this presentation, I will introduce you to the monosounds and diphthongs and their correct use. In English alphabets, there are 5 vowels. We know that it's A, E, I, O, U. Since our kindergarten, we are taught that. But however, in spoken English, there are 20 vowel sounds, that is 12 monosounds, which we call it as pure vowels, and 8 diphthongs, and 24 sounds, for consonants. But in this presentation, I will focus on phonemic symbols. I will talk about the the 20 vowel sounds. The first is front vowel, long vowel, front closed rounded vowel. That is, when we produce these sounds, the position of our tongue should be at the front side of our mouth, and the two dot means the vowel before it is rather long. So when we produce this vowel sound, our we should stress the vowel sounds, that is like e, e, as in lead, need, jeans, shade, canteen, bean. If we say lit, it will mean lit. So we have to stress on the vowel sound, say with correct articulation like need, lead, need. I hope it's clear. The first vowel sound, that is E sound. The next is E, E. The first was E with a stress, and here we do not see any tooth, we do not see dot, so it means it's a short vowel E, like in lit, hit, ink, fish, E. The third is A, A, like in lead, med, says, men, men. Sometimes I hear people say mean, but it's men, A sound. A, A. It's somehow, that sound is somehow similar to A, lead, A, but here it's A, hat, dad, ban, lab, lab, A. And while producing this central vowel sounds, we should the position of our tongue should be at the middle of our mouth. Eh, eh, it's hard. I'm sorry, it's hard, third. And in this third, you will see th sound, the third sound. So when we produce th third sound, the position of our tongue, the tongue should be in between our upper and lower teeth, so that it will produce the sound of third, bug, enough or enough. Both are correct. Some may prefer to say enough, while some will say enough with a sound and e sound. Cup. This the this sound occurs in position where the following letter R is not pronounced. So early, instead of early, early, birth, shirt, nerve, or earning. We usually say earning, but earning. Ago, ago, farm. Instead of echo, ago, farm, farm. China, accept. Some people say accept, but it's accept. Here we see that it is a long vowel. We have to stress on the vowel sound, like this, ask instead of ask. We usually say ask or ask, but it's ask, ask. And father, harsh, harsh, car or car, car. Moth, short. Sometimes when we articulate the sound shot, we literally take the word o and we say short, but it's short. Rob, lot, and here also we take it o as for o sound, o letter as o. So we usually say lot, but lot, lot. Okay. O, that is court, as in court, door, bound, whole, whole, sound. Okay, Those who have taken English as an honor subject or those who are taking, they will know all those things, all those vowels, but it's just a revision for them. Book, ooh, book, look, took, ooh, root, use, rule, duty, duty. Now we'll go to diphthongs. A vowel glide in diphthongs, vowel glide which begins with one vowel position and moves in the direction of another position. So here in diphthongs, we'll use two vowel sounds. That is, one is A and one is E. So the sound is A, late, make, day, age. Next is I, that is I and E. I, that is hide, mind, I, sigh, oi, o, o and E, oi, so toil, boy, loiter, boys. Now, E, E and A, ear, fear, ear, rear, and tear. And the next 17th is A, air. That is, when we produce this diphthongs, diphthongs, the first vowel is prominent than the other. First vowel is prominent than the second vowel. So it's tear, tear, ear, air, rear, share, oo, oof, and ah. So tour. Sometimes we say door, or I hear people say, let's go for door. So tour, tour, sure, furious, oh, home, phone, close, rope, oh, so as in house, about, ground, bow. Here uh, here are some facts on English. Number one is in every 2 hours a new word is added to the dictionary. So in that way, in a year, almost 4,000 new words are added. Okay. The thought over the letter I and J are called either title or superscript. And English is the language of the ear, which means in order to qualify as a pilot, one needs to identify and speak in English while flying, regardless of the origin. Number four is in United States, the United States does not have an official language. Okay. Some words in English do not have a singular form. That is, number one is glasses. We do not say clean your glass, but we say clean your glasses. Yeah. Number two is binoculars. Three, pants, trousers. When we are referring to it, and scissors. We do not say pass me the scissor, but we say pass me the scissors. This this word always goes in plural form. Okay. Number six, the word hiccup. Hiccup is more commonly spelled HICCUP, but both spellings are accepted. There is a word in English for day after tomorrow. When conversing with friends, we usually say, let's meet day after tomorrow. But instead of using the word day after tomorrow, we can use overmorrow. Mm, Of the 10 most widely spoken languages, English is the only one that does not have a guiding institution to set language standards. So what we know of English is usually taught. What we are taught as official is really just what we are taught in schools and continue, and which we continue to use in every situation. So it is a common saying that English does not have a master, but that is one. And here are some daily used words which we often mispronounce. We say, we usually say gokwa, but goko, goko. You will see the phonetic description just near the spelling. Goko. And yes, the next is phonetics. I hear people say phonetics, phonetics, but it's phonetics, phonetics. Yeah. And one of this is also very common. If you go according to this, according to the spelling, it will come to Wednesday, but it's as 4 syllables. But in spoken English, or we usually pronounce it as Wednesday, Wednesday, only 2 syllables. And next is Saturday, Saturday, but we say Saturday, focusing on all the spellings, but Saturday, Saturday. This is one common mistake which teachers usually make. We say etc., 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 but it's etc., etc. So here, the next word, according to the spellings, it will come out to 4 syllables, like comfortable, but it should be pronounced as comfortable, comfortable. Yes, I have a question. Okay, question. Some people pronounce it as caution, caution, or cushion, but it's question, question. Yes, it is not government or government, but it's government, government. Carrot, carrot. But if we say carrot, at first people might laugh at us and say, okay, you are pronouncing it wrong, but it's, even if they correct us saying we should say carrot, but let's just say carrot because it's correct. Now the next is, again, this, if you go according to the spelling, it will come out to 4 syllables, that is vegetables, but it's only 3 syllables, which means vegetables, vegetable. This is again very commonly used these days by many of the youngsters, and we know that this memory has access to our phone and to every gadget. So cache memory, instead of saying cache memory, let's say cache memory. Yeah. Now here P is a silent word, which means it's dead, not dead, dead. The next, very common among girls, sachet, but we go to the shops and say, we ask for shampoos that comes in sachet. So we say sachet, but it's sachet, sachet. When I was a kid, I had a habit of always hearing from teachers and fathers, sisters, bring your guardian, but it's guardian, guardian. Instead of guardian, it's guardian. The very, again here, thank you, but we usually pronounce it as thank you, like THANKYU, thank you, but it's thank you. When the symbol as shown in the screen shows that we have to keep our tongue in between our upper and lower teeth, as I have already said, to produce the sound, that is thank you, thank you. And with this, I end my presentation.
Thank you so much, Ms Soyimla Akum. I'm sure everyone were just silently practicing all those words, right? And she gave us so many tongue exercises to do. And I hope that today we've got so many, we still have another presenter but our bags are almost full with knowledge, right? And new words, the words that we have always been mispronouncing. And I hope this presentation is this webinar is holding your interest. And please stay till the end, because we have again another very interesting presentation which will be presented by Mr. Halim Hussain. His topic is key differences between language and literature. Another very interesting topic again. So, so I give the time to Mr. Halim. You may please take your time and start with the presentation.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much, Inakali, for the brief introduction. My topic is key differences between language and literature, where I'll be speaking not only about the differences of language and literature, but also the origin and development of language and literature develop. So, as students of literature, we often face the question that in your honors or your masters, do you study grammar, or what kind of study do you face during your graduation or your masters? So, as the previous speaker has already mentioned, that in literature we don't study language. Literature is altogether a different field. So, if we have to study language, uh, to study language, that's a very different field, and it comes under the broader term linguistics. And even we have one more field that is called English language teaching, where we study how the English is taught in the school or the higher levels. So, coming to my topic, I have divided the talk into three parts. That is first, I'll be talking about some differences between language and literature. Uh, then I'll come to the origin and developments of language and literature. If you see, language and literature both are interrelated concepts. If we define language into simple terms, it can be said that of it's a study of sounds, words, sentences, whereas literature is the study only of written works over the years. The existence of literature is solely based on language. There can be no literature without language. So language comes first, then comes literature. Whereas both language and literature is interlinked with each other, the main difference between language and literature is that language deals with both spoken and written aspects, whereas literature mainly deals with the written aspects. Coming to the concept of language. So, what is language? Language is an abstract system of symbols and meanings governed by grammatical rules. We see that in language, language mainly can be divided into two sections. One is oral, that we speak in our day-to-day life, that doesn't need any kind of rules or regulations, or even symbols, which is basically interaction between the two people, and the written language. Apart from that, there are also many study areas in language, such as phonology, morphology, syntax, semantics, etc. All these terms comes under the broader aspect of broader term linguistics, which is the study of language. In phonology, we study speech sounds. In morphology studies the composition of words, whereas syntax studies the manner in which words are put together to form phrases and sentences. Semantics studies the meaning of in language. Basically, it is our ability to speak that makes us different from other species in the world. Study of language is one of the most fascinating subjects. So there are certain set rules when it comes to the study of language, but language is not steady or static thing. It has evolved over the years, and it changes with every moment. Meaning of some words change over time. Some words go out of the vocabulary, whereas some new words come into the vocabulary. and so on and so forth. There are many languages in the world: English, French, Chinese, Arabic, German. These are some of the most spoken languages in the world. In 2015, according to Summer Institute of Linguistics, there are 7,102 living human languages. Even these languages have different varieties, and those varieties are known as dialects. Coming to the concept of literature, what is literature? We see that literature can be mainly defined uh, as something that is written and also sometimes spoken material that are passed through ages. Various definitions have been used to interpret literature throughout history. Sometimes literature is also defined as artistic works with a high and lasting artistic value. Literature can be categorized into different forms. It has various forms. Literature does not mean that it only has a written aspect. It can be classified into fictions, non-fictions, or verse and prose. It can also further be divided into major literary formats such as poem, drama, novel, and short story. Literature can be studied under various classifications such as time period, geographical locations, nature, etc. Some forms of literature are classical literature, French literature, colonial literature, medieval literature, modern literature, romantic period, post-colonial literature, and so on and so forth. Most people assume that literature is a field. Most people assume that literature is a field that deals with creative and imaginary works of authors. However, in literature, we also get to study non-fictions that contains facts and informations, and also they are considered a major part in literature. Uh, some basic differences that I have observed in the differences between language and literature are, as I have already spoken, language is an abstract system of symbols and meanings governed by grammatical rules. Uh, Literature refers to written works, especially those considered to be superior of uh, or of lasting artistic value. Language is both spoken and written, but literature mostly studies the written aspects. Uh, there's an interconnection between language and literature. Language can be studied through literature, whereas literature also studies language. In the order of things, language was the first to come into being, and because of language, literature came into being. Literature cannot exist without language. Language studies rules and structures. It is more technical than literature, whereas literature studies the works of styles of different authors. It is a more in literature we get to see the aesthetic part more. Coming to the brief history of language, have you ever wondered how English language evolved or how English language was formed? It was not a day or two. It evolved from ages, from time immemorial. How so many words came into English language compared to the other languages? English language comprises of around 7,50,000 words, and all these words came into the language as the language evolved since time immemorial. English language is also a product of various inventions, roughly starting from the year 1600 or before that also. Basically talking, English language can be, the history of English language can be divided into, the history of English language can be divided into three parts: Old English, Middle English, and Modern English. Uh, Old English started with the arrival of three Germanic tribes. They are Angles, Saxon, and Jutes. Prior to these invasions, Britons spoke Celtic language. After the Old English, there's Middle English. Middle English began with Viking invasions. Vikings were a tribe of nomadic people that ransacked their way through northern and northwestern Europe 1000 to 1200 years ago. The Old English got mixed up with the Norse, that was the language of the Viking tribe. They ended the Norse that invaded the Old English. They ended up giving 2000 new words, which include give, take, egg, knife, husband, run, etc. Although English was spoken widely on the British Isles by 1000 AD, the Norman invasion established uh, French as the language of the royals and power. Old English was left to the peasants and the working classes. Modern English in the 14th and 15th century, following the 100 years war with France that ended French rule in the British Isles, English became the language of the power and influence once again. With the vast literature produced by Shakespeare, English literature and English culture got developed immensely. Then comes the late modern English. The main difference between early modern and late modern English is the vocabulary. Late modern English has many more words arising out of the Industrial Revolution, World War One, World War Two, and with the development of science and technology. So coming to the brief history of English literature, we see that English literature also can also be divided. English literature has also been divided into many parts. Uh, the Old English literature that came first, Old English or Anglo-Saxon, is the earliest form of English. Beowulf is the greatest and the first epic English literature. Apart from that, Wolf and Caedmon are two important figures in Old English poetry. Wolf wrote religious poems, and Caedmon was famous for his hymns. In the Middle English literature was dominated by Geoffrey Chaucer, William Langland, the morality plays, the miracle plays, and the interludes. After that came Elizabethan age, which was dominated by drama. The English dramas have gone through great transformation in Elizabethan period. Drama was the chief literary glory of the period. Ralph Royster, written by Nicholas Udall, was the first regular English comic. Other notable writers of the period are Christopher Marlowe, Thomas Kidd, Thomas Nash, Thomas Lodge, Robert Greene, and Robert Peel. William Shakespeare has immensely contributed in the Elizabethan drama. He remains as a towering figure not only for his time but for all the time. After Elizabethan age, there was Restoration period, and gradually it developed into the romantic poets to Victorian age and modern age. Gradually, English literature also developed with the coming of age. So there are some interconnections between language and literature, as both have faced invasions or both has faced the inclusion of newer forms and newer things. But there are many differences that we can see in both literature and language. Basically, literature deals with imagination or with the lived experiences, whereas language is the connection or is the direct interaction between two human beings or two uh, people, persons who can interact with each other. Uh, with this, I think I would like to end my talk. Thank you. Hello. Yeah, I would like to end on this note. Hello. Hello. Can you hear me? I hello.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry. Um, Thank you so much, Mr. Halim, for enlightening us with uh, various aspects of literature and language. And we will have few questions for the participants. If the students have any questions to put forward, or you have any doubts that you want to clear, then you can ask the resource person. And in the meantime, I would like rapporteur to get ready while the participants are putting forward their queries. So the participants, have anyone, do you have any questions or doubts that you want to clarify? I would like to encourage the students, okay, to put forward your queries and doubts, or if you want to know about something in the context, okay, of what they have presented, that you can ask questions. You can unmute yourself and put forward the question, or you can even section. If you don't want to speak, then you can share the question in the chat section. Anyone? Okay, if there are no questions, then I would like to give the time to Ms. Sanjantula, okay, for the report. Ms. Sanjantula, you can take the time.
I hope I'm audible.
Yes.
Thank you, ma'am. So, good afternoon, everyone. To summarize our session today, Ms. Soyimla Akum had presented on the topic on the basics of phonemes. So she presented us with introducing us with the language, what is language, language being a method of communication comprising of words, sounds, and spoken words, right? And then what is language? Okay, she told us about what is second language, and second language is our non-native language, okay, not our first language. Mother tongue would be first language, and our second language, English or Hindi. Okay? She's also given information about what second language is, okay, and interest mentioned about how language has evolved in India, and how states like Arunachal, Nagaland, Meghalaya have taken English as our official language, like in the office, okay, our official language in our state, okay. And also she's given us a fact about how India is the second highest English speaking country, right? Okay. And she's also, in her presentation, given us the definition of what phonemes are. Phonemes is a set of speech sounds that are distinguished by the speaker, okay, speaker of a particular language. So the sounds that we make when we talk, okay, when we give a speech, the sounds that we make basically is what phoneme is, all right. And she's gone on to give us an information about what teaching us about what front vowel is, what central vowel is, and what back vowels are. The different vowels that we have, all right, in the English language, 20 vowels and the 24 sounds for consonants, all right, and the different vowels. Also gone on to tell us about diphthongs, okay, which has two vowel sounds, okay, like A and I, okay. These different examples that she's given us in her talk. And also she's given us some facts on English, which is very interesting as well. 4,000 new words added to the English dictionary in a year, all right. and also how the United States does not have an official language. Okay, so these were some of the facts that she's given us. And very interestingly, I've also discovered overmorrow, which I never happened to use. Overmorrow, which means day after. Okay, day after tomorrow. We would usually say day after tomorrow, but also given us, enlightened us with the word overmorrow. Okay, and the daily words that we use. Okay, how we mispronounce some of the words, how we how we use some how we pronounce some words, the daily words that we use, how we pronounce it. Okay, and she's given us the phonetic description to each words. All right, different phonetics with the syllables, like etc. Okay, etc, which has 4 syllables. All right, so these are very informative, very valuable for each student to learn. Okay, and she's also mentioned and given us examples in her talk about some words. Okay, where the letters are silent. Okay, and produce when we produce the words with our tongues. Okay, how to pronounce these words. That is basically what she talked about in her lecture. All right, and she ended up her presentation with this fact. Okay, and in how to pronounce these words. Okay, produce the sounds with our tongues. Okay, so that was very informative with session 1 on the basics of phonetics. And moving on to the second session, okay, by Mr. Halim Hussain, with the key differences between language and literature. He talked about the development of literature and language. Okay, uh, what people asking what we study in our graduation or masters when we say we are taking English honors. Okay, rather a very common question amongst students taking English honors. All right, the question lies, okay, in our head, and also people who are not taking English. All right, they ask these questions very frequently, and he's told us the differences between this and they can be this different field altogether, with English language teaching and literature being different. Okay, he also gave us these he also divided his session into 3 parts, where he talked about what literature is and what language is, and also the similarities and the differences between the two of them, the language and the literature. So language, he mentioned, are words, sounds, and sentences, which deals with spoken words and written. Okay, both. And literature, we know it as written works, which deals with written aspect of the work. Okay, and interlinked with each other, we have language. Okay, which is oral and which is like a symbol. Okay, we have phonology, we have syntax, morphology, and semantics. These are all comprised into the study of language, which is linguistics. All right, so this is what Sir Halim has presented in his work. Also, he has given us some of the famous language. He's mentioned some of the famous language, which is English, French, Italian, all these languages. And then he also talked about what literature is. Okay, which was a written material defined as artistic work, something that is something that lies with imagination, that's connected to imagination, which has different forms in literature, whether it's novel, whether it's fiction, non-fiction, or poetry. These are some of the genres of what literature is. And also it can be based on different time periods or geographical locations. And he's also given an account of what the difference between language and literature, language being spoken and literature having the superior aspect to it, which studies written aspects. And he's also told us that language is the first to come into being, and literature being second to it. Okay, literature coming much later on after language, and how literature cannot live without language. Okay, literature does not cannot exist without language. And his English he talked about how English language evolved. We have also the fact that English language has 7 lakh 50,000 words, and how English language is divided into these three parts, which is the Old English, the Middle English, and the Early and Late Modern English. He gave us a historical account of English language and its evolution. English. The early modern English and the late modern English, which had been very much influenced by the First World War, the Second World War, and the scientific discoveries and technology coming into existence, and having an influence in the late modern English, which naturally added these vocabularies. Okay, amount of vocabularies in the late modern English were added and were increased. So that was in the second part of his session, and he talked about the different periods in the history of literature, the Elizabethan age, the Restoration period, whether it's the Victorian period or the Romantic period or the Victorian period, and then the modern period. Okay, so these were the different periods that you would see in the history of English literature, with its famous or acclaimed authors and poets and writers that belonged to this to different ages in the history of literature. And lastly, he concluded his session with leaving us with this note that literature deals with imagination, and language is a direct interaction between two human beings. So this is what we have gathered from our session, which is very helpful and informative for our students. I'm sure our students have thoroughly enjoyed and gained a lot of knowledge from the two sessions. I thank Mr. Halim and Ms. Soyimla for presenting these two very important topics, and I would like to hand over the session to our moderator, Ma'am Inakali.
Thank you, Ma'am Jantula, for briefing us on the various topics that were discussed in this webinar. Now, I would like to give the time to Mrs. Soyimla Akum for the vote of thanks.
Okay, can you hear me? Is my voice audible?
Yes, yes.
All right. Thank you so much, everyone. First of all, I would like to thank the health department from the Department of English. All right. Ms. Inakali Asumi for organizing this webinar on the topic, the basics of English as a second language for the non-native speaker. All right. Now, through this webinar, I guess most of the students, not I guess, I'm sure, most of the students learn so many new things about English, because English is not part of our native language. So as a non-native speaker, how do we interact with each other in English? So this webinar has been an eye-opening experience for all of us. Then I would like to begin my vote of thanks by thanking the first speaker, Ms. Soyimla Akum. Thank you, Ms. Soyimla Akum, for your beautiful presentation on the basic English phonemes. Then I would also like to express my gratitude to the second speaker of the second session, who is Halim Hussain, and who spoke on the key difference between language and literature. Then I would also like to express my gratitude to the rapporteur, Ms. Jantula, for recording and for summarizing the whole webinar in a short period of time, which is really an incredible job. I'm telling you that. So at the last but not the least, I would like to thank all the students and all the participants who had come here to make this webinar a success. Thank you all.
Thank you, Ms. Soyimla, for the vote of thanks. And once again, I would like to thank the two speakers. Thank you so much for joining us today. And the students have gained so much knowledge through this webinar. So once again, thank you, Ms. Soyimla and Mr. Halim Hussain. And a very big thank you to all the participants. Thank you so much, because this webinar wouldn't have been a success without your participation. So thank you, everyone. And with this, we come to an end of this webinar. Have a good day ahead.